Good morning, everyone. Good Sunday morning to you. We are very grateful to be with you this morning as you're joining in. Make sure that you say hello to us. We are also very happy because we are actually in the second week of December, in which we actually dedicated the entire month of presentations to the Master, since it's December and it is that great time of the year where it seems like things change a little bit in the ambiance, in the way that we think, the way that we feel, the way that we react to each other. So it's a very blessed time indeed. Good morning, Carlos, Juan, Gisele, Vivi. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we present our guest speaker, Marcio Lasaro, as we do every Sunday morning, we begin with a reading. And today we actually chose the book Living Spring by the medium Francisco Candro Xavier, by the spirit author Emmanuel. And it is lesson number 10, called Yes, Indeed. Yes, indeed, I am coming soon. Almost always, while human beings are still young, their attitude towards life is that of a child who is unaware of the value of time. They think the days and nights are just too short for their happiness and thrilling adventures. 1,000 enticements of ephemeral illusion obscure the way they see things, and time rushes in or rushes by in a whirlwind of useless desires. Rare are those who escape such a waste of time. Usually, however, as they grow older and their soul has a relative degree of education, they quickly readjust their concept of time. 1 week is too short to accomplish what they need to do. Whatever their situation, they now understand that the same endeavors are repeated, completely recapitulated, at certain months of the year, just like the seasons of winter and summer, of blossoming and fruit bearing in the realm of nature. Then, troubled and anxious, they do all they can to increase their efforts to fill their time or stretch it out. Most often, at the end of the journey, when death takes them in the midst of their duties or entertainments, they have no chance to make up for the years they have wasted. Therefore, do not allow yourself to be embroiled in the human jungle unconcerned about your spiritual growth on the eternal pathway. In the next to the last verse of the New Testament, that letter of divine love for humankind, the Lord made the solemn promise to the apostle, yes, indeed, I am coming soon. So use your time wisely and do not delay your preparation. What a beautiful message as we come to understand time as a blessed investment that we have for our spiritual growth and for ourselves. And it is interesting. We were watching the other day a documentary on Netflix called Time of Death, in which they actually follow along different families in which one of the members are actually terminally ill. And time is one of the things they talk about, how they wish they could go back in time, how they wish that they utilized their time more appropriately. It's as if actually they're having a glimpse of their entire history in this present reincarnation and recapitulating some aspects of it. It's quite normal to actually do that at the time of death. The message actually comes to us, and we should feel blessed that we are here right now. If we are here right now in the condition in which we are able to start reflecting a little bit more about our time and what we are doing with it in this present reincarnation, we should take advantage of that and not let it slip by. On that note, I'm going to invite you to do our opening prayer with us. You can keep your eyes open, you can keep them closed, but definitely keep your heart open so that we can truly feel the benefactors, the spirit guides, our guardian angels, however we want to call them, their presence here with us and our Master Jesus. Dear Jesus, benevolent spirits that are with us at this time, we are so very grateful for this morning, for being able to wake up having a new day as this gift that we have been given, to be able to make it count. Whatever that is, this personal, individual, non-transferable aspect of what we are doing with our lives, let us reflect on it and see where we are to apply the time better in a more wholesome way. We are so grateful for having you as our divine friend, our psychotherapist, our doctor, our brother in our evolutionary journey. We often wonder, what would it be without you? How would our lives be without the notion that on your promise, you did say you'd send us a counselor who would be with us at all times? The notion that you actually never left. As that good pastor, you still watch over us with love and care, sending your missionaries of love in the presence of our mentors and guardian angels to warn us, to encourage us, to uplift us in the times of difficulties. And so on this prayer, all we can do is say thank you. Thank you for choosing us to be part of your flock, for protecting us, for guiding us, and for being that beautiful, eternal presence of a great love we have yet to learn about, to fully understand. What would it be? What would our lives be without you, dear Jesus? We don't want to know. All we know is that we are grateful that you are in our lives. So bless our efforts to become better than we were yesterday, and allow us to be mindful of the time we still have left in this present reincarnation to make a change. There is always time to make a change. There is always something to make better. So please help, dear Jesus, not only today, but always. And bless our dear brother Marcio, who's with us this morning. May we actually be able together to drink in every word that he will speak in this blessed gospel with the topic, the divine doctor before us. And it's you, dear Jesus. Thank you so much. So be it. So here he is, our friend, our brother, Marcio Lasaro. I asked him to provide me with a little bit of a biography because a lot of people don't know you yet, Marcio. He actually very humbly offered me that he's a volunteer at the Allan Kardec Spiritist Center of Danbury in Connecticut, but I'm going to actually put him in the spot and say that we know that he does a lot more than simply that biography that he sent us, but I'm not going to make him, I'm not going to embarrass him, just to say that he is a valued worker of the Spiritist dissemination in America, and he does a beautiful job alongside of the other volunteers at this beautiful center, which, by the way, Marcelo has come to meet. I haven't met that center yet. Probably you haven't either. So make sure that if you're in the tri-state area, that you look them up. Make sure you visit that Spiritist Center. So Marcio is going to be presenting before the Divine Doctor. Marcio, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, and thank all of you for participating. Um, the topic today, the title is Before the Divine Doctor, and it's based on the passage that is in Matthew 9:12, and says that those who are well will have no need for a doctor, but those who are sick. And we start by saying thanks to God, to our Master Jesus, to all the benefactors, spiritists of this spiritist group, We're also very grateful to everyone that somehow have contributed directly or indirectly so that we can be here. It is a great pleasure to talk to you guys. And many of you are in really our hearts. And even if I don't know all of you, I wish I will have the opportunity to meet you face to face. I'm in Connecticut right now. It's quite cold here today. It is 42 degrees. I wish I would be in Florida, it would be a little bit warmer, but there is no reason not to be happy because we are talking about the divine doctor, which is Jesus. It is with a great responsibility that we talk about Jesus, but it's also with with our heart full of happiness that we can say something. We can reflect on Jesus' teachings, lessons, and we can learn something. So I ask God also to give you some patience so you can be with me, be with us, and feel free to participate in the comments. I won't be able to read them now, but but I will read them later. So if you like it, keep it for yourself. If you like it to the point that you want to share with somebody, please go ahead and do it. To start, like to us for remember, there's a message in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 6, Christ the Consoler, where the Spirit of Truth in Bordeaux, 1861, says, I am the great doctors of the soul, and I have come to bring you the remedy that will cure the weak, the suffering, and the sick are my favorite children, and I come to save them. Come unto me, you who suffer and find yourself oppressed, and you will be alleviated and consoled. Do not search for strength and consolation elsewhere, as the world is impotent to offer them. God directs a supreme appeal to your hearts with Spiritism. Listen to Him, eradicate sin, lies, error, and disbeliefs from your souls. These are like monsters that suck your pure blood and open wounds which are almost mortal. In the future, when you become humble and submissive to the Creator, you will keep His divine law. Love, pray, be gentle to the spirits of the Lord, and call them from the bottom of your heart. Then He will send His beloved Son to instruct you and say these good words: I come because you have called me. Isn't it beautiful? It's one of the most beautiful message according to our judgment in this entire book. It's almost poetry. It's so beautiful. So the topic today, it's based on the divine doctor, and it's in the message. There's a book called The Book of Hope from Emmanuel, by enchanted by Francisco Xavier, and it's based on this passage in Matthew 12, who say, those who are well have no need for a doctor, but those who are sick. This passage in Matthew is also captured in Luke 5:32 and in Mark 2:17, three of the gospel. But for us to understand a little bit better when, so in which environment and situation, and more importantly, when and why those words were said, we need to go back a little bit, about 2,000 years ago. The precise date doesn't really matter. The lesson is the most important thing we should reflect on. So, there was one day that Jesus was walking near the blue lake of Gennesaret, and the crowd was there listening to his teachings of love and faith. In one of these days, he was by the lake, and there were two boats coming back from fishing. And this boat, there was Andrew and Paul in one of the boats. And Andrew remembers seeing Jesus when he was with John the Baptizer. So he gets to Simon and say, That's that's him. That's him, the one that I talked to you about. And Jesus then go to Simon and in a small conversation tell him to lay down the net in the water to get some fish. And Simon, with respect for who he was, based on what Andrew told him, said, Master, look, we were out all night. We didn't catch a single fish. You want us to put the net here? We just come back. We're coming back with nothing. But maybe in respect, he did. He went back to the water, put down the net, and they catch a lot of fish. So much that they need help from the other boat. And there was so many fish that the boat almost flipped. So it's important that then Peter, or Simon at that time, went to the master down to his knee and said, Depart from me, master. I am a sinful man. Jesus told him, Simon, and invite him. From now on, don't be afraid. Hereafter, you will be catching people. And Simon, Andrew, James, and John left their boats, their net, and followed him. As they were traveling from one city to Capernaum, there was a man that came to Jesus, full of leprosy. And here we need to understand that this is a disease, it's an infectious disease. And at that time, today is a terrible disease. At that time was like a death sentence. So when Jesus saw this man approaching him, and the disciples also saw him approaching, they very likely want to keep him away because they don't want to get infected. They don't want their master to get infected. But these men, this sick man, fell to Jesus' knee and said, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. You can remove all this disease from me. And Jesus just said, I will be clean. And the man was free of this terrible disease. Some people saw this happening. Jesus then told this man, Tell no one about it, but go and show yourself to the priest and make an offering for this cleansing, as Moses commanded, as the proof for the people. And the men went. Later on, Jesus was in the house. And there was a lot of people because the word that he was doing all these things was spreading. People wanted to listen to him. So he was in a house, and it was so crowded that it was very hard to go in, even to be from outside the house, listen to his teachings. But there was a very special man that couldn't walk for years, years and years. So he couldn't go to Jesus to listen to him. But he asked his friends to carry him on the bed because he wants to talk to Jesus. He wants to be healed. He wants to walk. And they couldn't. His friends, every place was crowded. The only way that they find was to go on the roof, remove part of the roof there, and lower his bed from top, right in the center of the room. And in that place was also some Pharisees, because they were watching what was doing. A little bit of curiosity, a little bit of envy, a little bit of trying to build a case against him. And when Jesus saw that man being there with his bed, what his friends did, he then said, "Your sins are forgotten." And the Pharisees then screamed from the crowd, saying that this is a blasphemy. You cannot forgive sins. Only God can do it. Then Jesus looked at them and said, what is more difficult to do? Say you have your sins forgotten, or tell, rise and walk. And to show you that the Son of a Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, he said to the man, rise, take your bed, and go home. And that man rose before everybody's eyes, took up his bed, and went home, glorifying God. There was a guy, there was a man called Matthew. Very likely, he witnessed Jesus' miracles. But this man was a tax collector, a publican, as the term of the time. And in ancient Rome, there was this function, these publicans that were really part of the empire. They were hated by Jews people. And when they were Jews, they were really against their people. So the Jews were under the Roman Empire, under their rule. They somehow accept that by force. They were subjected to that. And they didn't like that at all. But there was something that they didn't like even more. It was to have their people to oppress them, to go after them, and to work with the enemy or the oppressors. And Matthew was a publican, he was a tax collector. He was not to be part of the Jews. He was Jew, but they didn't really like him. They really think that every publican was a sinner, was not even second degree. It was to be banished from their society. So Jesus is passing by this place. He sees this man sitting there by the tax office, and he says, "Follow me." And that man rose and followed him. Later on, Matthew was so happy with that he that there was a great feast in his house. And with him, a publican, there was also other sinners to the from before the eyes of the Pharisees, Jesus' disciples, Jesus himself, and the Pharisees passing by that feast reprehend the disciples, saying that, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus heard that and said these famous words: "Those who are well have no need of a doctor, but those who are sick." Go and learn what that means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I came to call the righteous, or to not call the righteous, but for sinners. The Pharisees laughed and left them alone. And these were the situations, this was the environment that those words were said. Jesus sat together with tax collectors, sinners, but he didn't commit any crime. He was not part of this crime of the sinners, but he was close to them. He was not sick, but he was close to the ones that were sick. And who are sick nowadays? We can ask that question. First, sickness, above all, if not first of all, is very related to the body. But is it really only to the body? Was Jesus there just to heal the body and the body only? The body will perish one day. We all know that. So Jesus was there to heal something that will have a short life. The average life expectation nowadays is about 70, 74 years, depending on the country. At that time, it was much less. So, was Jesus just to heal the body? No, Jesus was to heal the spirit. He healed the body too, but he was to heal the spirit, who is The spirit is before the body and after the body. In truth, the spirit will have many bodies. St. Augustine in the Gospel according to the Spirit teaches us about this word about it's about trials and tribulations. He says, what more is to say about the words of expiations or atonements that you don't already know? Just look at the one you live on. The great number of superior intelligence among you will indicate that the inhabitants of earth is not a that earth is not a primitive world. The innate qualities which they bring will constitute a proof of them having already lived and evolved to a certain degree of progress. But look at the number of vices which they also subject. Shows their mortal imperfections. And this is why God has placed them in this ungrateful world, which they can make expiations through. They can through heavy work and all the suffering of the miseries of life they have to go through until they deserve to ascend to happy words. The earth, and I hope for many of us, myself included, are going to be, or we are all right, going to be part of the word of regeneration. We all hear this, especially in Spiritism, right? Um, and in this world of regeneration, true happiness doesn't exist yet, but the thought of happiness. People are still made of flesh and therefore subjective to the vicissitudes, to all the issues, for we can then, once out of our matter, less materialized, once we become free. We all seek for the calm after the storm, but we are not there yet. We, especially now, all seek for this calm time. And this time will come. It will not be pure happiness, but the calm time after the storm will come. We need to be healed from our sickness, then we can be part of this transition. And one can say that the disease really don't exist. Well, there's an expression for Hippocrates, which is the great physician from the age of Pericles, as for many refers the father of medicine. He says medicine is treating the patients, not just the disease. Of course, when we say that and when we read this expression, we're not saying that disease do not exist. It's obvious they do exist. And it will be a lack of logic and, more important, lack of respect with someone who is sick or has a loved one who is sick to say that disease do not exist. We should not, and we cannot take this out of context. The benefactor Joana de Angelis, mentor of the median Divaldo Franco, in the book Self Discovery says, there are no disease but sick people. To a greater or less extent, degree, we are all sick. The body is like a bladder which absorbs and externalizes the wounds that we carry in our soul. There are only disease because there are patients. She says that. And she continues. There has been a huge struggle to eradicate disease from the face of earth. But why they cannot be eradicated completely since modern science has fantastic resources? The answer is simple, she says. An attempt has been made to cure the effects and not the cause. The cause of disease are not necessarily, the root cause are not in the body, but in the spirit. So when Jesus, the divine doctor, come, he heals the body, but his goal is to heal the spirit. That's his goal. The body will perish soon or later. The spirit will live on. We are all immortal. Once we are created, we will never die. The spirit will never die. The body will. So, in the prayer section in the Gospel, according to Spiritism, there is a prayer for those who are sick, it says illness belongs to the tests and vicissitudes of earthly life. Is it inherent to this material nature in the inferiority of this world? Passions and necessities of all kinds create unhealthy conditions in our organism, which are sometimes transmitted from father and mother to the offspring. In words that are more advanced in both physical and moral aspects, the human organism, being more purified and less material, is no longer subjected to the same sickness, and the body is not secreted, undermined by the passions. So, this tells us that as we evolve, we will see less and less illness, disease. So, that's why the divine doctor wants to heal the soul, the root cause of the disease. And these afflictions, they can come from many different areas. It's very easy to see where the afflictions are coming from. They're either coming from this life or from past life. In a very concise way, even though simple, but very complex, we can observe and see where is our afflictions coming from. It's from this life. So an exercise that it's one would say it's kind of a good for practicing to to identify what the torments are coming from is for you not to look at somebody's life but to look at your own life and trying to detach a little bit from your current situation and really reflect what is the cause of that. And is this, you will get surprised that many of our afflictions are not from past life. Many of our afflictions are actually from this life. We may choose not to look at them, we choose to ignore. But there are also some that are not from this life, and they must come. from previous one, from previous lives, from mistakes, from errors that we did, that we made in the past. And now we are here not to pay. We are here with an opportunity to correct them. I know in the gospel you will find this expression, you will pay. You did something, you pay. But if we look at the whole context, God is love and justice. But love, the love, He's merciful, all merciful. The lesson, it is for us to learn something. It is for us to evolve by correcting our mistakes. Of course, during that moment, we see it as we are paying our debts. We are paying for something. We're being punished. But if we look at the way that when we were a child, maybe you don't have children, but you were a child at some point. And I'm sure you all will have an example that if you go back and if you think about what happened at that time, it looked like a punishment. But today, it was an opportunity for you to learn. And you did learn from that. So you look at back now and you will see. Imagine God that is all good, merciful, justice, that is giving you the opportunity to correct your mistakes. And you're sick. He's offering you the medicine to fix, to get fixed, to get healed. The medicine may not taste good at first, but it will make you feel better. So in the manual message that I mentioned that this title is from, in the book of Hope, he says, millions of people, incarnated or discarnated, are sick souls from many centuries, carrying debts from past lives or that they were acquired now in this life. We proclaim heartfelt words that Jesus is our divine doctor. And a slight reaction or reflection is enough to find in the gospel the recipes to view him as a doctor and a therapy for our souls. In Matthew 7 9, we see that God is good. An example that Jesus mentioned that when 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 a child asks for a bread, the father will not give it a stone, or when the child will ask for a fish, the father will not give him a serpent or a snake. If you that are evil know how to give good things to your children, how about the Father in heaven, which is all good and merciful? His law is to give you good things. which you may not see as good at that moment, but is to give you good things. In the parable of the good shepherd and the lost sheep, which is in Luke, um, and also there is a reference in the Old Testament in Ezekiel that the shepherd go after the lost sheep. You all remember that. We all can read that. The good shepherd will leave the 99 sheep that are not in need of help at the moment, and they will go after the lost sheep, and he will find it. He will put it on his shoulder, bring it home, and will be happy. The father will be happy. Everybody else will be happy for that lost sheep. Emmanuel continues in saying that all indications of the sublime form are conspicuous by their safety and consciousness. In the disturbance of selfishness, do to others what you want others to do to you. It's the golden rule. Right? The great during that passage in the gospel in Matthew when Jesus talked about the great commandment, do to others what you want the others to do to you. Love God first. Love God from your heart with your soul. That's the great and the first commandment. And the second, which is like the first, love your neighbor as yourself. And Emmanuel continues the message saying, in the convulsions of anger, impatience, you should possess yourself. In the word of revolt, humble yourself and be noble. In the paranoia of vanity, you should not enter the kingdom of heaven without the simplicity of a child. And in the paralysis of the spirit by a false virtue, if you aspire to be the greatest of all, be the servant. Remember the message and the lesson from Jesus when he was talking about humility and hospitality. He said that if you were invited to a marriage feast, don't go and seek the first, the most important seats, like right in the front. Sit in the back, because it's much better to be called to stand up and move if you're in the back, to move to the front, than if you're in the front and get asked to go back. And in another occasion, when Jesus and the disciples were asking Jesus about who is the greatest, and that's what he said, everyone who exalts himself will be exalts himself should be humble, and those who are humble will be exalted. That's true greatness. Humble yourself like a child. It's not to think like a child. We all know that, right? It's to be humble as a child. Emmanuel continues when say, love your enemy, learn from the truth, and the truth will set you free. Forgive 70 times 7, and pray for those who prosecute and insult you. We all know these lessons. They are quite simple when we read them, but they are very complex and difficult to do when we want to implement them in our lives, not in other people's life. These are lessons for ourselves. These are great tools to be healed. Love your enemies. That's very, very difficult to do, but it's very, very necessary. And it's not to love the enemies with the same passion you have for your loved ones. That's not what Jesus meant. Kardec and the Gospel according to Spiritism will have a very logic and very important explanation about what is love your enemies. And even Jesus at that time, he said, it is not to hate, it is to extend your hands, to offer your help when they need help. These are tools, these are ways that we will be healed. These are medicine that the divine doctor is offering us so we can get healed. We are all sick somehow, more or less, from time to time. These are the medicines. These lessons are the medicine. Not that will necessarily heal our body, or maybe not heal our body only, but these medicines will heal our spirit, and this will not perish. The body will, the flesh will. We all know that. We may choose to ignore because we are somehow all afraid of things that we do not know for sure. So when we think about death, we all choose to say, maybe I think about that later on. But this will come. We all know that. This body will perish, but my spirit will live on. I will live on because I am spirit before this body and after this body. And these medicines are the one that will heal my spirit. Love your enemy, forgive, help, be humble. These are all lessons that are there. Jesus performed a series of miracles, healed people. He was with the sinners. He got challenged for doing that. His answers was, I am with those who need help. I came for those that need help. He was with them, but he did not become them. Jesus was not a sinner as he was sitting at the same table with the sinners. He was close to them because they were the one that need help. Jesus was with the sick ones because they are the one that need help. And that's all of us. We are all sick somehow to a more or less degree. These medicines, his lessons, his teachings, not just by words, but by example. are for all of us. Remember that every time that he healed somebody, he performed a miracle. A lot of times when he did that, he said to the person, "Go and sin no more." That's what he said to the woman that was brought to him to be stoned. Go and sin no more. He didn't condemn her. He didn't condemn the people that brought her. He didn't say a word to them other than say, "Those who are free of sins, cast the first stone." We all know what happened next. The stones went to the ground, and the people were just leaving. And they left the woman with Jesus. So then who could help her to stand up, to stand her head up high, to go and to sin no more? She had a perfect body, as we know, but that soul was sick. At that moment, he offered her the medicine. He offers us a lot of medicine. He performed many miracles. He teach many lessons. He teaches today. He thought at that time. These were all captured by the disciples. But John, at the last sentence in the gospel, number chapter 21, 25, he said that there are so many other things that Jesus did. Where every one of them be written, I suppose that the word itself could not contain the books that will be written. That's the extension of having the divine doctor teaching. So we all somehow sick. If you prefer, we all sinners. But in front of us, there's the medicine. Jesus' teachings are here for us, for you, for me, for all of us. Should we then take an action? Because Jesus didn't say, don't worry, I will carry your cross and you stand, hold still. He didn't say that. He said, take up your cross and follow me. So there is an action. So with taking in consideration that we are all sick somehow, the medicine is in front of us. We need to take the action and take this medicine and follow him. And we will find great happiness by doing so. Think about the paralytic that was in that house that came from the ceiling, from the roof. He could be in his house asking Jesus to go there. He couldn't walk. He asked his friend take me to Him. Take an action. All the teachings, all the lessons, we are, it is, they are all here. We can take an action. Take these lessons, put in our lives, follow Him, and be happy. So I really enjoy, and I think again, I wish I would be seeing you all face to face. But for now, it is great that we have this opportunity to be over the internet. And I hope you enjoy as much as I did. Again, I would like to thank you all for letting me having this opportunity, for the spirituals group, for you, Andrea, and everybody that participate. So I hope this really is according to your expectation, and you had a good time.
Thank you, Marcio. It was great. It's really important to bring these lessons and take the time to explain it so that we can actually feel close to Christ and our Father above and feel that we are truly looked after, right? We are not here on a planet of trials and expiations, just floating, going through the difficulties without any type of assistance. So thank you so much for bringing this. And before I ask you to do the final prayer, and in talking about Jesus, and this is where Marcia is going to get really embarrassed, but it needs to be presented last month, and a formal announcement is still going to be made. Look at his face; he already knows what I'm going to be talking about. But I want to show you guys the latest release here in the format of audiobook. Is the existing book that has already been translated, Jesus in the Home, by Chico Xavier in the Spirit, Neo Lucio. And it's available on Apple iTunes here for us to be able to listen. And it's also available on Audible. So if you are a member of Audibles like I am, this is a great opportunity because they actually have it without a very large cost like the one we see here, $9.99, but it's really not a large cost when you consider the beautiful work that has been done, and Marcio is responsible for producing it. So we are very grateful for this gift that we have been given, narrated by Preston Scott and produced by Marcio Lasaro. So we are very, very grateful for this gift that we have been given. And if you like to listen to audiobooks, here's the opportunity. Make sure that you look for it and get it in your iPhone or in your computer. So thank you, Marcio, for this.
Mhm.
And as we say, have a good day. We just want to remind you guys that next week, next Sunday, the 19th, is going to be our last meeting of the year. We break for 2 weeks, which this also means that it's the last week for us to be studying with David on Genesis, miracles and predictions according to Spiritism at 9:30 a.m. prior to this public presentation. And it's also going to be the last week in which we are going to be studying Missionaries of the Light next Wednesday at 7 p.m. So just as a reminder, so that you can be with us. We are still looking for a physical place, just updating you in case you're watching and wondering what is going on. We are looking for a place. Everything is really expensive. So we are also accepting donations. Make sure that if you can, and we know it's a little bit tight given the holiday season, make sure that you give us a donation. Any amount is fine. On that note, thank you for being with us, and I ask our friend and brother Marcio to do our final prayer.
So let us all continue to be connected and thank our Father for this day. Thank our Master Jesus for everything we receive. When many are living on the street, we thank for our house. And it doesn't matter if it's a small or big. We thank for as many are starving, we have food on our tables. As many are alone, we have friends and family. But Jesus, we ask you to help us understand the law of love so we can take every opportunity we have and extend our hands to those in need. To understand, Master, that our process to be healed, it is by exercising the good. It requires courage, and we ask you for that. Master Jesus, thank you also when you extend your hands and help us to stand tall. When you help us to get back on our feet, and even when you carry us, please continue to bless this whole world as we all need you. And as our friend said at the beginning, we do not want to know the world without you. Please, Master, continue with us and help us to polish our soul that will better reflect your love in all the directions. So be it.
So be it. Thank you so much, Marcio. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you.